Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Reddit Asks Us podcast. I just want to say hello to all of my beautiful, beautiful friends on the internet and welcome you to the Reddit Asks Us podcast session here today. So, welcome to Reddit Asks Us, where the podcast where we read and react to comments from r/Askreddit. I am your host, Luke Dick. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, remember to comment and subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating and also leave us a review. It helps out so much with the show and getting it spread to everyone. And, okay, guys, I wanted to, again, mention this brand new, awesome, super cool Spotify feature where you can answer this week's Reddit question by clicking the description of the episode. And then below the description, you should see this week's question. And to the right is a white icon that says reply. This is guys, I'm so stoked about this feature just because it allows us to have more of a conversation with each other. I get to hear from you more directly. I've been getting comments every single week consistently since the feature has been implemented, and I can't tell you how fired up I am every single time I see a new comment or a new answer from a question for the episode, because it's really surreal, honestly, to think that so many people want to contribute to the show and listen to the show and really enjoy it. So it helps boost community within the engagement within the community as well, because you can see other people's comments, and then you also get notified when your response is published. So I think it's just a great way to get more people involved. And honestly, the whole show is about a community, right? The whole show is about the Reddit Asks Us community, and if I can do anything to grow that community and help connect other people, then I'm really, really happy to do so. So thank you so much. Also, guys, another quick announcement is I also just want to give a massive, massive thank you to all the fans out there. I think we reached this week our highest total downloads for a single week's episode. We're close to 220 downloads in a single week's episode. Saying that out loud feels insane. Saying that out loud feels so wild. I want to just give my appreciation, and the audience numbers have been going up consistently, and I just want to extend my appreciation to all the fans and all the listeners, because the show truly wouldn't exist without anybody tuning in, and it wouldn't exist in the way it does. And I want to thank every single person who's been with me since the beginning. And it's so crazy to think that 220 people have listened to an episode in a single week. So that just warms my heart. It honestly does, from the bottom of my heart. I'm so forever thankful and grateful that people really want to tune into the show, and it's something that can help brighten people's day, because it's honestly so surreal. So thank you all so much for tuning into the show. That gets me so excited when I can see that where the numbers are increasing and people are just liking the show, because that's all that really matters, really. Is that people are really enjoying the content, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. And also, don't be afraid to tell me if the content is not living up to your expectations, because it's important that I do the show, and it provides everybody who listens with a level of satisfaction, right? So thank you all so much. And now that all of the housekeeping is out of the way, we had one answer from last week's question, and you know what? I'm not surprised that I didn't get more, because this is a pretty specific question. But I tried to expand it, but I didn't at first, and it was kind of a little bit specific. So last week's episode was, how did you find out that you got cheated on? So I kind of expanded the question, and I said, how did you / someone find out that you got cheated on? So we got one reply from McMuffin, so shout out to McMuffin on Spotify. Don't know if this counts, but in the second grade, I had a girlfriend, and she came over to me a week after the relationship started and say, hey, want to meet my new boyfriend? The boy ate erasers. Wow. She left you for the Eraser Boy. That is a tough loss. That's an L. That's a tough L, man. I can very much relate to that. You got to know that, at a certain point there's some reevaluation to do. You're in the second grade, but that hurts. That hurts. That's your villain origin moment. That's the moment where you have that's your villain origin story. That has really sparked your you're just like Patrick Bateman now. You're so like meticulous with everything that you do. It's like Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. It's like in the second grade you started only wearing suits. It's like your apartment has like nothing in it, just clean all the time. You never seem wavered at all. It's just a constant state of passion to overcome that troubling moment in the second grade when the eraser kid got the better of you. So I definitely do feel your pain. I feel your pain, McMuffin. Okay, now let's head into this week's episode. I apologize, guys, for my voice. I got sick over the weekend, so sorry if I sound a little bit nasally. But anyways, this week's episode is, again, from Askreddit, our favorite subreddit. What was the biggest lie you ever believed? This one is so, like, just relatable because, as kids, certain things you hear and then you just believe it, and then you find out as an adult, you kind of question it, and you're like, you know what, that actually makes no sense. That couldn't be true. There's no way, right? But the innocence of a child sometimes carries on into our adulthood. So first one comes from Nikita. When I was 15, over my summer break, one day, my mom called me and said she was going to pick me up, and we were going to go to my stepdad's for the weekend. I didn't understand why I had to go when she would leave me at home by myself for the weekend all the time. I was old enough that I knew the rules and she could trust me. She told me there was a mix-up at the electrical company, and they seemed to think we didn't pay the bill, and so the power was going to be shut off. So we were going to go to my stepdad's until that got sorted out. That was a lie. A weekend during into 2 weeks, turning into a month, and then the entire summer. We hadn't been home in over 2 months. I kept asking when we could go home, and she'd always have an excuse. Now we're in September. She's driving me from one city to my hometown to register for the following year of school, which started up in a week. This was the closest I had ever been to home in 2 months. After I'd registered, we bypassed my house and started heading towards the highway to go back to my stepdad's. It was at that moment I snapped and started freaking out. I knew something was wrong. She pulled the car over and started crying. Apparently, my brother had been helping her pay the bills, and when he moved out, she could no longer afford the place on her own. So my stepdad was trying to help, but he had his own house, and he had kids to look after, and he couldn't keep up. We had been evicted. We stayed with my stepdad for the summer while my mom tried to work something out with the landlord, but they couldn't come to an arrangement because she never told me, and in order to buy herself time to work something out, she had to be comfortable with potentially leaving everything behind. Well, she couldn't work it out with the landlord, and we lost everything. Only thing I got out of that house were the shoes on my feet and a few outfits/PJs, enough for a weekend stay. That is intense. Holy crap. Like, wait, I'm confused. Why weren't you able to take anything? The landlord's just copped all of your stuff. He's just like you guys didn't want to, was the landlord just coming that quick? Like, was it just what exactly there was no couple minute span where you could just gather a couple things, maybe the essentials, right? Like if you left your iPad or something, you're just like, well, Mom, it's been 2 months without my iPad. I seriously need to go get my iPad. And then you're just like, your friend comes to school with your iPad. Like, where did you get that? Where did you get that iPad? Oh, my mom found it super cheap on Facebook Marketplace. That is literally my iPad. That's my screensaver. That's my home screen. You haven't even changed it. It's signed into my iCloud. Wait a second. Have you bought? You're the one who's been buying all the movies on my account. I haven't even been able to watch them. I knew something was up. I figured that it wasn't. I figured Toy Story was that was a bunch of BS. There's no way that my toys were coming alive and spending all that money on iTunes. Getting all those movies. Like, what the fuck? But that's insane though. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to pull on your kid. But I feel like this is just me. I feel like at a certain point, you just got to be honest with your kid. You know what I mean? Like, that might be tough, but I feel like it's like telling a kid 2 months later, yeah, listen, so all of your stuff, yeah, we can't get that. That's gone. That's a tough loss. That's just, sorry about that. Sorry about that one. That one is, it's a tough one. Yep, DS, gone. Yep, the iPad, it's all gone. Yep, couldn't get a single thing out of it. So, sorry about that. I feel like at a certain point, it's like, wow, man, you gotta tell the kid a little bit earlier. But yeah, it still confuses me. How were you able to, you couldn't grab anything? It was just, oh my goodness, landlord's coming in 2 hours. We gotta leave right now. He's coming with a Tommy gun. And he's just gonna, if we're here, he's just gonna pepper us. You couldn't grab a single thing. And I can't find it hard to believe landlord's just like, oh, by the way, make sure you leave everything. Make sure you leave all of your worldly possessions. Anything that has any value whatsoever, just make sure you leave that, right? Anything that's your property, go ahead. You can go ahead and leave that behind. All right, next one comes from Cloisters. When I was a kid, Dad told me that there was a Greek god of sex called Fellatio. Who is your dad? Whose parents are these? What the hell? I'd never heard of the word before. Then freshman year of high school, I took a mythology class and asked the teacher in class, why hadn't we talked about Fellatio? Silence. The god of sex? I'm cringing hard just typing this out. Oh my God. Got a nice little talk after class, and Dad almost peed his pants laughing that night. Edit, thanks for the love for my dad. He was always pulling bullshit like this until he died of cancer in 2015. Rest in peace. I was frustrated with his playful bullshittery as a kid until I was able to connect with him as a friend in my early 20s or so. He was really into wordplay and turning phrases, as well as Warhammer and World of Warcraft. I miss him, and this Fellatio story always makes me smile. As a kid, you're not worried about your kid just going to school and just saying my favorite, Percy Jackson god is Fellatio. What? Where did you learn this? Who's telling you this? How is this information getting to you? That is such a weird thing to tell your kid. Who's honestly thinking about that? Who's honestly being hey son, there's a god of, there's a Greek god, of sex called Fellatio. You're 8 years old. What sex? What's that? Well, maybe you should read up on Fellatio and might give you a little bit of a bit understanding. Yeah, I think that there's a little bit something strange going on there with your dad. So I was yeah, now that I'm looking back on it, Dad was kind of a bit of a interesting guy. Bit of a personality. He was a character. He wasn't allowed actually to drop me off at school. Wasn't actually allowed within the, 500 meters of the vicinity, actually, It's now that I think about that, it's kind of, yeah, just never, no playgrounds either. He actually never took me to the playground, so, okay, I'm starting to piece this together now, I think, a little bit for myself. Fellatio does, in all fairness, though, Fellatio does sound like a Greek god of sex. I would definitely believe that. You must have been hella embarrassed in class, though. Oh my God, everyone's just looking at you like Like, and also, like, why would you want to learn? Why would you learn about the Greek god? Like, you're kind of a little bit of weirdo too here, Cloisters. Why would you like? Who's the kid in class who's like, when are we gonna learn about fellatio? When are we gonna learn about the Greek god of sex? It's like, okay, guys, today we're gonna be learning about Poseidon. So Poseidon was the Greek god of the sea, right? So the ocean, and controlled the domain of the ocean. Listen, yeah, this is all fine and whatever, but like, when are we gonna learn about fellatio? You know, the Greek god of sex, you know, like, Greeks were doing that shit, you know, they were all into the sex stuff. When can we, like, learn about that, you know? That's my favorite Greek god. Is anybody laughing? Why isn't anybody laughing? Does anyone else want to learn about fellatio? Yeah, that's, like, what? Reply from HughJazz77. I read a story in Reddit maybe 8 or 9 years ago where a guy was talking about passing a cotton farm as a kid. They bale up cotton in these big round balls that look like kind of giant marshmallows. Someone told the guy it was a marshmallow farm, and since he was a kid at the time, he believed it for years. So fast forward to a couple of years after reading that, and I'm in the car with my parents and nephew. We're passing a cotton farm, and he asks what it is. That story pops into my head, and I tell him it's a marshmallow farm. Fast forward again to last year when my 12-year-old nephew was on a trip with his parents and little brother. They passed a cotton farm, and he sees the bales and calls out, "Oh, look, it's a marshmallow farm." My brother was like, "What in the world are you talking about?" So my nephew told him about the time we passed the marshmallow farm, and I told him all about how they grow and process the marshmallows. No one in the family has let him live it down since, and it's been brought up every year at family gatherings. Definitely the proudest moment of my career as an uncle. God, I wish there were marshmallow farms. Oh, I wish there were marshmallow farms, because that seems like a much more ethical sort of way of getting marshmallows, and it sounds like a healthier way. It sounds like marshmallows are healthy, right, when they're grown on a farm. It sounds like something like, yeah, you know, we grow grains, tons of grains, lentils, you know, wheat, marshmallows, actually. Yeah, we're a big marshmallow farm family. It's the family business, you know. We really made a living back in the day, you know, off of the marshmallow farms. When the demand for marshmallows, see, the thing is just the demand for marshmallows has gone down. People don't know this. So marshmallow farms are suffering right now. Marshmallow farms are really suffering. So it's really a crisis. So all the marshmallow farmers are, you know, protesting. You know, the government wants to shut down marshmallow farms, and it's just it's a big deal right now. So it's really in the news. So if you see a marshmallow farm, go up. I'd stop. I'd go right to the farmhouse, you know, and I'd knock on the door and say, "Listen, I support your cause. You know, I understand things have been tough. You know, with the marshmallows, that is." Like, get the hell off of my property. All I can imagine is, like, in the U.S., just like, someone get this, you know, off my property right now. If you don't get off my property right now, I'm going to put a barrel between your teeth. That's all I can picture. It's just a confused farmer just being like, are you soliciting me for something? Is this like a drug deal? Marshmallow farm? I'm not a marshmallow farm. It's like a code word for cocaine or something. All right, next one comes from Schleem. Shout out to Rick and Morty. When I was 16, I found out that one of my sisters wasn't actually my sister. She was actually just best friends with my older sister growing up, and she lived with my family from when she was like 12 or 13 through 18. She and my older sister are 15 years older than me. Okay, I can see that. Unfortunately, her parents wouldn't sign her over for adoption and didn't contribute anything for my mom raising her for 6 years. Weirdest part is that my family is predominantly fair-skinned, blonde with blue eyes, but the girl I thought was my sister was traditional Mexican with darker skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. My mom was always very tan and had dark hair throughout my childhood, so I thought that my other two sisters and myself were the odd ones out. Yeah, it's just like there's like she's like that like person you believe is your sister is like teaching you about like Mexico and all this sort of stuff, and it was like you just think she was just born there. You know, she's teaching you how to the family to salsa dance, and it's just like, why doesn't mom know this? You know, mom, aren't you and the older sister are, you know, you guys are clearly, you know, related. You know, why don't you know any of this? She's teaching her like recipe for guacamole or something like that. It's like teaching her all about Mexico. Like just teaching all the family Mexican history. It's like, why are you the only one who knows this? Why doesn't anyone else know this? But anyways, all right, let's move on here. Srathnell, user Srathnell says, I had a fraternity brother from New York come to University of Oklahoma. This was before the internet. We told him to be careful of rattlesnakes. We explained that what they were. He did not believe. So we took him to the library, pulled out the encyclopedia, and showed him. And then wow, this must have been a decent little bit ago, pulling out the encyclopedia. He then asked what else can kill you in this state without missing a beat. One of our brothers said, one of your fraternity brothers. Oh God. One of our brothers said, they probably won't kill you, but you have to watch out for the drop cats. He went on to tell him how this kind of cat, 40-pounders on average, evolved to use the cat trait of landing on their feet to kill their prey. They would climb trees, hanging upside down, then drop feet onto their prey. Only defense? An open umbrella. This guy walked to and from every class on sunny days, not a cloud in the sky, opening his umbrella as he walked under every tree on campus. This lasted about 3 weeks. This is such a frat guy thing to do. And this story, this is what happens before the internet. This is what, you know what, honestly, I feel like there are some people today who'd believe this and they wouldn't even need the internet. They wouldn't even need it. But yeah, that definitely couldn't have lasted too long, because then you'd realize you're the only person walking around campus with the upside down umbrella, you know, just making sure that you got to dodge these drop cats. It sounds kind of like a real thing, especially if you tell it right away. But it's like everyone's just like, no, we're used to them. Yeah, drop cats just, yeah. We can tell you're not from Oklahoma when you're walking around with an upside down umbrella, you know. We all did that as kids, but come on. At a certain point, you just have to grow up, right? At a certain point, you just have to leave those childly habits behind, you know. So, at a certain day, your parents have to say, "Okay, little Timmy, it's time to give up the upside down umbrella." You know, if you want to survive in this world, there's going to be a lot more harsher things to deal with than the drop cats. So you gotta grow up at some point, okay? And if you just get nailed by a drop cat, then that's just the unfortunate facts of life, right? Sometimes it's an icicle falling down on somebody and just hits them right in the eye, and then they're dead. And sometimes it's the drop cats. That's just how it is, right? This is a little something called natural selection, right? So out on your way, you know, just watch out for the drop cats, you know, and if you gotta fight them off, you gotta fight them off. My dad, this is a reply from Agent Carmichael 20. My dad told us as kids about hoop snakes. Because I have this twisted sense of humor, I knew he was lying, but played along, saying I saw something about him on TV. My poor sister fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, and told all her friends at school before we came clean. She's still mad at us. Then there was a time we were nonplussed by these squirrels we saw that had super dark fur. Dad, those are rock squirrels. They bury rocks to throw off other squirrels and keep them away from where they store their acorns. Dad, have I used this joke already? No, but I've lived with you for 16 years, so I know you. Yeah, no other squirrels have the capability of being able to do this. The other squirrels just can't pick it up. For some reason, they're the way their brain is wired, right? The way that their neurological system feeds into their muscle memory, and controls those pathways of connection between neurons. It just doesn't allow for the retention of that specific information about hiding the rocks, and hiding those acorns. But this one breed of squirrels, though, they are masters, right? Can't beat them. Cannot beat them. Next one comes from loitering housefly. Not myself, but a lie I told to a friend. Back in my high school days, a few of us were walking through the train yard. There were neat piles of sand here and there. One of the group, Robert, asked what those were about. I told him that they're a thing for a gang that usually operates on rail lines and yards. After they kill someone, they pour a bucket of sand where this happened. In reality, trains have sand and dump them on the tracks to help with the traction. A few years later, a group of us were crossing a rail yard as a shortcut. Robert was with us, and he seen the piles of sand and got freaked out. We asked him what's up, and he repeated what I told him, then told us we should split. I could not contain my laughter. I reminded him that I told him that, and that I made it up on the fly. He believed this for several years and refused to go near rail yards during this time. It was also the 90s. Yeah, that... Just like your boy, every time you go to a rail yard, he's just like getting down on one knee, and he's just, praying. He's like, rest in peace, bro. Rest in peace. Some real ones out here, man. This is where the real ones lie, man. This is just significant loss. Significant loss. It just horrible circumstance that happens here. It's these goddamn train gangs, bro. These train gangs are... I really think I'm going to become a lawyer to get to do something about these train gangs. I think justice needs to be brought to the train gangs. And I think I need to do this. I'm going to become a lawyer, a police officer. I got to do something. I can't sit idly by while these train gangs are just merciless. Why isn't this being talked about on the news? Why isn't this the biggest story in America right now? Is these train gangs and their ritualistic habits of pouring sand, over the train tracks for these to just mark where they've just murdered innocent people. This is just unacceptable. I'm gonna have to do something about this. His whole life story is about trying to bring justice to train gangs. As soon as he gets to finish his law school, he's like, finally, I can do something about these train gangs. Writes this whole thesis or whatever on defeating train gangs, and everyone's reading it just like, what are you talking about? What the sand? It's like, hey man, don't even get started. Don't even get me started, okay? I don't want to talk about it. You read my thesis, okay? That's enough. I don't want to get into it. All right, next one comes from Tony Rax. I dumped some gasoline in an Arizona tea bottle to get a fire started. My sister seen me pour it on the fire, and she freaked, thinking Arizona iced tea was flammable. I went along with it, saying, yeah, you didn't know that? That's why it's called Arizona, because of how hot it gets there. She was 20 years old. That's tough. That's tough. Around 5 years later, we are camping, and she says, who's got some Arizona iced tea I can use to start this campfire? I looked at her and didn't understand. She explained, I told her it's flammable. I had no recollection. She said that she has been telling everyone for the last 5 years how bad it is for you and how flammable it is. Yeah. It's like someone's going to light up a cigarette or something or some sort of smoking or a vape or whatever after they drank Arizona's tea. She just fucking slaps it out of their hand. Idiot. Are you serious right now? Do you seriously not know what you could have just done? You could have just internally combusted. Sometimes I can't deal with people. I just can't deal with them. Is this just how uninformed our society is? Why do we even still allow Arizona iced tea to be sold? I was just looking at her like, what are you talking about? Arizona iced tea, it's flammable. It can it's the leading cause of forest fires. Is kids think it's super funny to just spread all this Arizona iced tea all over the ground, just light it all on fire, and then they start all these forest fires. You want to know that giant fire in Australia, during COVID? Arizona iced tea. That was the cause. It was a bunch of kids during COVID, all cooped up inside, and they were like, you know what? We're going to go outside. We're going to pour Arizona iced tea all over the place and just start a fire. Kill all the koalas. That's just, it's beyond shameful. Okay? These people need to be persecuted. Arizona iced tea needs to have some goddamn responsibility. It's like so intense about this. It's like, I'm gonna fully believe now that you are mentally insane. There might not be something quite, there's something a little, 20 years old. You believe that at 20 years old? None, it's just Arizona that's flammable. None of the other brands of iced tea or soft drinks are flammable. It's just Arizona. Just strictly limited to Arizona. You don't think that would just cause a problem? It's just like, yeah, this shit's so flammable, but it's just, that's the formula. People can't stop drinking it. Cannot stop drinking that Arizona iced tea. I know it's flammable, but I love it. I just can't help myself. It's like I could spontaneously combust at any point in time. Literally in 2 seconds, I could just spontaneously combust. If it's hot enough outside, I could just burn from the inside out. But Arizona iced tea is worth it. It's that good. And it's 99 cents. So, well, it might have been 99 cents when this story was told, but it's not 99 cents anymore. They took it off the can. It's so annoying. All right, next one comes from Sensorized. When I was very young, we had a pet hamster. He got out of his cage, so my dad put the cage in the basement, thinking he might get hungry and get back in. One morning, I woke up, and there was the hamster in his cage in the usual place. I asked my mom how they found him, and she told me she opened the door to the cellar, and there he was, dragging his cage back up the stairs. It wasn't until I was a teenager and remembered the exchange that it occurred to me. She was obviously lying. Yeah, when hamsters, when they get hungry enough, they just, put on their boots, put on their working gloves, and just they can move. They just haul their cages. It's like ants in that way, right? They can just lift up to 100 times their body weight, but it only happens, at night. Humans can never see it. It's just one of those things, but it's a real special talent. It's just, humans actually have been, it's been a thousands of year process to get them to be able to, because humans would just do all this work on the pyramids, right? All this work on the pyramids, and then wake up overnight, and then the hamsters would basically do the same thing. And it's like, well, how can we use these hamsters? What can we do to enhance our work? Because of these hamsters, we know they're doing the work. So how can we harness this? So it's still an ongoing study. Hamsters are notorious for not participating. They just are very high and mighty. So it's just not one of those things you can really convince a hamster to do. Amoinsis 13 replies and says, "See, I had that, but Uno reversed it on my dad. For some reason, he thought I, a child / preteen, was world class at hamster husbandry, and had a single hamster that lived for an unprecedented 8 years. I had 3 separate hamsters over the course of those 8 years. He simply did not want me to have any more after the first, so I told him that the others were anything but the first. None of them looked alike. The reason he never knew was because he never cared enough to know." Do you really think that? I think that, come on. Did your dad actually fall for that? There's no way. Come on, how could you see that and not just be like, yesterday the hamster was, I could have sworn the hamster was black furred. This one is white. Nothing sus here. No, I don't. You know what? It's probably nothing. You know how hamsters get. It's it's a mood thing, right? Hamsters go through these mood swings, right? And then they just all of a sudden change their fur, and suddenly it's a whole different hamster. Suddenly this hamster's behavior just completely does a total 180 on you. So, yep, it's one of the only animals that does it. So that's just it's a hamster thing, right? Hamsters are really interesting animals, right? They can build pyramids when you're not looking, and just change color and complete personalities and live up to 8 years. So there you go. Goose says, outside of dumb lies your parents tell you as kids, my friend who worked at a gas station with a big food station said that some ground beef items he told me that some ground beef items they use kangaroo meat for their ground beef because it was cheaper than cow. I'm gullible with my friends. Why? How could you? Really? You believe that? You were just like, seems legit. Yeah, it's just kangaroo meat often is cheaper. And I don't know how that makes sense, right? Don't even know, because those things are fast. They're not super plentiful either. So, but yeah, for some reason it's cheaper. Just for some reason it's just way cheaper. So, but it you know what? Mimics the taste. Really does. So, think about that. Think about next time you're chowing down on some of that gas station food, and it's just, think about, this kangaroo meat. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay? So, there you go. Keep your taste palates open, all right? Keep the taste palates open. It's not, be open to trying new things, okay? Sometimes you don't even know what you're eating, all right? All right, let's just do maybe one more, and then we'll pack it in for this episode. So the last one here will come from Salty Clown Car. I lived my entire life genuinely believing my childhood home was built by little people because the attic crawl space is unbearably low. Turns out, yeah, they were just a little below average height, but not little dwarves. Just about everyone I know has laughed at me. I really am a clown. Honk. How is this even possible? Why would you? Yeah, because that's the only job, they build, the only job little people can get is building tiny homes. That's the only, because everything's perfectly proportioned for their, thing. So anytime anyone wants a tiny home built, you know where to go. You know where to get the real tiny homes built, because the little people, they just, that's their bread and butter, okay? Because a tiny home to them is just like a regular home. So it's just a very lucrative business, It's one of those things. You got to support that community, the tiny home community, because if you support tiny homes, you're supporting employment for little people. So there you go. It's really one of those top hot button issues right now, because there are companies that want to streamline the process, for these tiny homes, and it's really stealing the jobs away from the little person community. So it's a challenge right now. We got to really fight Congress on this one. Really push them, to not outsource this labor. Okay. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up there for today. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Reddit Asks Us podcast. I am your host, Luke Dick. Remember, please, if you feel so inclined, leave us a rating and also review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to the podcast. And also remember to use the new Spotify feature to answer this week's question and episode, and I will read it off on next week's following episode. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I love you all. Peace. Love you. Bye.